The roots of an ancestral land. The clash of cultures. The first Americans and the colonial era. Long before the first European ships appeared on the horizon of the Atlantic Ocean, this continent was already a land of vibrant cultures and complex societies. Native Americans were the original inhabitants of this land, organized into diverse tribes and nations with their own languages and traditions. From the Navajo in the southwest to the Iroquois in the northeast, the land was a mosaic of sovereign peoples. As the 1600s began, waves of settlers began to cross the dangerous Atlantic. If we ask why the colonists came to America, the reasons were as vast as the ocean itself. They sought freedom, religious liberty, and economic opportunity, while many others fled persecution in their home countries. However, this growth had a dark foundation. A group of people, the Africans, were brought to America and sold as slaves, an injustice that would profoundly shape the economic and social fabric of the nation for centuries to come.
Eventually, 13 original colonies were established along the East Coast: New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. As these colonies grew, their relationship with the British Crown soured. The colonists decided to fight the British for three fundamental reasons: high taxes, often called taxation without representation, the mandatory quartering of British soldiers in their homes, and the fact that they did not have their own government to represent their local interests.
The breaking point arrived in the summer of 1776. Thomas Jefferson was tasked with writing a document that would challenge the most powerful empire in the world. This became the Declaration of Independence, officially adopted on July 4, 1776. In this historic text, Jefferson outlined two unalienable rights that remain the pillars of American identity: life and liberty, along with the pursuit of happiness. With this bold act, the colonies severed their ties with Great Britain. The Constitution and the Founding Fathers. Winning independence was only the first step. The next was to build a stable nation. In 1787, the most brilliant minds of the era gathered at the Constitutional Convention. Their mission was to draft the Constitution, which became the supreme law of the land. But what does the Constitution actually do? Its purpose is threefold. It sets up the government, defines the different parts of that government, and protects the basic rights of all Americans. To ensure the public accepted this new system, a series of essays called the Federalist Papers were written. These papers were authored by James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and John Jay under the name Publius. Among these architects of democracy, Benjamin Franklin stood out as a man of endless intellect. He was the first Postmaster General of the United States and the founder of the nation's first free libraries. However, no figure was more central than George Washington, remembered today as the father of our country. Washington not only led the Continental Army to victory, but also served as the first president of the United States, setting the precedent for the dignity and limitations of the executive office. Expansion and the 1800s, a century of growth and conflict. The 1800s was a century of immense geographic growth and deep social turmoil. In 1803, the nation took a massive step westward by buying the Louisiana Territory from France, a transaction that nearly doubled the size of the country for just $15 million. This spirit of expansion led the United States into several conflicts during the 1800s, including the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, and the Spanish-American War. But no conflict was as painful as the American Civil War, which pitted the North against the South from 1861 to 1865. The issues that triggered this fratricidal war were primarily three: slavery, economic reasons, and disputes over states' rights. In the midst of this chaos, Abraham Lincoln emerged as a leader of iron will. He saved the Union and issued the Emancipation Proclamation, a historic document that freed the slaves in the Confederate States, forever changing the moral fabric of the nation. While the country was being rebuilt, other social movements gained momentum. Susan B. Anthony became the voice for millions as she fought for women's rights and the right to vote. It was a battle for equality that would take decades to fully win. The 19th century ended with a nation that stretched from sea to shining sea, but one that still had much to learn about living up to its promise of equality for all.
Global wars and civil rights.
As the 20th century began, the United States was drawn into the global arena. The country participated in both world wars, as well as the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Gulf War. During the darkness of the Great Depression and World War II, President Franklin Roosevelt led the nation with a steady hand. In that global struggle, the primary enemies were a coalition known as the Axis powers: Japan, Germany, and Italy. After the war, a heroic general, Dwight D. Eisenhower, who had led the Allied forces in Europe, was elected president. The post-war era brought a new kind of tension: the Cold War. During this long period, the main concern of the United States was the spread of communism and the influence of the Soviet Union. While the world watched the space race and the nuclear arms race, a second revolution was happening within America's borders. The civil rights movement emerged to tear down the laws of racial segregation. Martin Luther King Jr. became the beacon of this struggle, working tirelessly to ensure that all Americans were judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. Recent history has also left deep scars. The most transformative event of our modern era occurred on September 11, 2001, when terrorists attacked the United States, striking the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. This attack united the country in grief and redefined American foreign policy and national security for the new millennium. Geography, symbols, and American identity. To truly understand the United States, we must look at its geography. The country is embraced by two giants, the Pacific Ocean on the west coast and the Atlantic Ocean on the east coast. Its main arteries are the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, the longest in the nation. To the north, we share a border with Canada, and to the south, we share a border with Mexico. In New York Harbor, the Statue of Liberty stands as an eternal symbol of welcome, a gift from France that reminds every newcomer that this is a land of opportunity. Our national symbols tell our story visually. The American flag has 13 stripes because they represent the original 13 colonies that started the dream of independence. It has 50 stars because there is one star for each state in the Union. When we hear the national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, we remember the resilience of those who fought for freedom. Finally, the American calendar is marked by days that honor our past and our values. We celebrate 10 major national holidays: New Year's Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Each of these days is an opportunity to reflect on the long journey we have traveled, from the campfires of the first Native Americans to the modern nation that continues to write its story every single day.